Hi, my name is Matthew Belisario. Welcome to the Belisario Sonic YouTube channel. Today I'm going to do a deep dive on what I consider to be an essential album for those who love jazz music, and that is Saxophone Colossus by the great tenor saxophone player Sonny Rollins. I consider this to be definitely an iconic album, something that those who are just getting into jazz would find very accessible. I think any lover of jazz, it certainly belongs in their library. So I just want to talk about this album today, its musical significance, the songs, where Sonny Rollins was at this particular time when he recorded this wonderful album. This album was recorded on June 22nd of 1956 at Van Gelder Studios and released in March of 1957. You've got a great lineup of players on this record. Of course, you got Rollins on tenor saxophone. You've got the great Tommy Flanagan on piano, the much underrated Doug Watkins on bass, and the great king of bebop drummers, Max Roach. Sonny has certainly reached a new level on this particular album. This is an OJC copy here for those of you out there on a budget, the OJCs are well worth picking up. Sonny, though, had not reached his peak on this album, although it's an iconic record, very fun to listen to, spectacular playing on it. Of course, Sonny was always growing and kept advancing as a musician over many years. He's still expanding his vocabulary on this record. He's improving his tonal articulation on the reed. And on this album, he writes 3 of the songs. I'm going to talk about that. But if you listen to later albums like Way Out West, Sonny Rollins Volume 2 on the Blue Note record, on the Blue Note label, and Contemporary Leaders, you hear Sonny still growing to yet another level. Let's talk about the stellar lineup. Tommy Flanagan was Sonny's contemporary, born the same year as Sonny was, in Detroit, Michigan. He was heavily influenced by Art Tatum and Nat Cole. And Tommy Flanagan had just recently moved to New York when he made this recording, after had recently recorded the New York Junction album with Thad Jones. He does fit well on this record, and of course he goes on to have a prolific recording career. Next we have the much underrated Doug Watkins on bass, who was born in 1934, also in Detroit, Michigan. And although he had just started out about a year beforehand, really getting into the recording business with Art Blakey's Jazz Messengers, he was just starting to become a very in-demand session player. In fact, in 1956 alone, I count at least 16 album appearances with such greats as Hank Mobley, Jackie McLean, Gene Ammons, and Kenny Burrell. I believe he's one of the most overlooked bassists in jazz, and that's probably due to the fact that he died tragically at an early age in 1962, at the age of 27 in a car accident while he was traveling from Arizona to San Francisco to meet Philly Joe Jones for a gig. The demand for him in the studio was impressive, however, with at least 74 recordings for Watkins between the dates, the years of 1955 and 1962. It appears on many iconic albums with legends such as Donald Byrd, John Coltrane, Red Garland, Lee Morgan, Horace Silver, Pepper Adams, and many others. This album would probably be among one of his most famous. Finally, we have bebop's really founding man on drums is Max Roach. I say intense is his middle name, and he swings really hard on this album. Roach was the most experienced of this lineup, born in California, January of 1924, so he was a bit older than these other guys. His recording career went back to about 1945 with the legendary Charlie Parker. Of course, not much needs to be said for Max Roach, but he had already recorded with Rollins and his friend Clifford Brown before this album was made. And sadly, just 4 days after this recording session, Brown would also die in a car accident. Let's go ahead and take a look at the recording date itself, which was at Rudy Van Gelder's studio. Sonny says in interviews that he remembers the recording date, but doesn't remember anything really special or significant about it. He said he really didn't really think that this album was going to garner the attention that it did. And of course, Sonny was always critical of his recordings, thought that he wasn't good enough to receive the accolades that he received on this recording. Hence, in a couple of years, he would take this big sabbatical and go to the bridge and go back to the woodshed and then come back in 1962 with the album, The Bridge. Let's take a look at the tracks on the record. So you've got 5 tracks on the record. You have Strode Road, Blue 7, More to Tat, St. Thomas, You Don't Know What Love Is. This album is pretty cool because this really is a traditional straight ahead jazz album where they have the time to play what they want. So while later on, when Rollins, for example, would do Now's the Time that you see back over here, those would be shorter songs, 3 or 4 minutes, from a big record company looking to market a little bit differently. On this album, the tracks span from about 5 minutes to over 11 minutes. And we have Sonny writing 3 of the 5 songs. So I'm going to dive into the Sonny Rollins tracks first, and then talk about the 2 standards that he covers. St. Thomas is probably the most popular song on the album. It's a reworking of an old English song which grew out of the Virgin Islands, where Sonny's parents were from, and Sonny remembered the song well from his childhood, and he would create one of the greatest jazz standards out of this song. It's 6 minutes and 49 seconds. There's plenty of room for these guys to play and exchange ideas with one another. And so I would definitely, if you haven't heard St. Thomas, I think most of you out there who are familiar with jazz probably know that track. Next, we have Strode Road, which is the shortest song on the album, another Sonny song at 5 minutes and 17 seconds. An intriguing tune that changes tempos. Finds Sonny in a really improvisational trance, if you will, coming up with all kinds of great improvisational lines. He exchanges time with Flanagan, who also offers a wonderful solo on the track. And then, of course, towards the end, he trades fours with Roach, and it's really just a joy to hear these guys go back and forth. The third song of Sonny's on here would be a much talked about, a big subject of conversation. The name of the song is called Blue 7. The longest track on the album at 11 minutes and 17 seconds. An example of Sonny growing in his compositions. And this is what many jazz critics would call thematic improvisation, though this was hotly debated among jazz critics. Gunther Schuler's article in 1958 called Sonny Rollins and the Challenge of Thematic Improvisation was really the main driver behind this whole idea of improvising on a theme, where others challenged that idea, saying that really all Sonny did was basically improvise on a blues line that he came up with, not so much a theme. And so it's been a kind of a controversial topic. However, the song itself is what needs to be listened to, regardless of how you want to analyze it. It's a wonderful improvisational blues tune, where Rollins comes up with this blues line and that everybody starts to improvise off of it. Max Roach said that this came off of an idea from Thelonious Monk I guess Monk at one point had said, why don't we use the melody throughout the entire song? Why do we throw it away after the first chorus and then just use chords and we all just make something up? Let's stick to the melody and improvise off that the whole way through. So again, Sonny comes in with the straight ahead mid-tempo melodic blues line. Then Flanagan follows on the piano, creating a loose foundation for then Sonny to begin the improvisational journey that they'll all take part in. Much is learned if you listen to this song, because again, it's 11 minutes and 17 seconds. There's a lot that goes on. Roach's drumming is intense. He has an awesome solo starting around the 5-minute mark that lasts about a minute and a half or so. It's very captivating. And throughout this entire track, Sonny never seems to run out of ideas. And he really explores the many ways that you can improvise off this melody. Flanagan's playing is brilliant in more ways than one. For one, he doesn't put the tune in a straitjacket by just playing a strict chordal progression. He allows a loose structure that allows everybody to play back and forth off one another. and he plays just enough to provide that. His solo is short and kind of contrasts what Sonny's doing, and Watkins also has a brief creative solo on this track. The exchange between them is a lot of fun to listen to. It's engaging, and Blues 7 is considered to be one of the great improvisational jazz masterpieces for this time period. Listen to it a few times in order to really grasp what's going on. The remaining two songs are covers: You Don't Know What Love Is and More to Tat. You Don't Know What Love Is, Miles Davis really made that a standard in 1954. Of course, from the Great American Songbook. His version can be heard on the album Walking. On this, I think this is a pretty cool song for Sonny to show off his ability to play a beautiful ballad. He plays with great panache on this. Flanagan caresses the keys on this ballad. It has a graceful short solo on it. At 6 minutes and 29 seconds, it fits very well, in between St. Thomas and Strode Road, which are more up-tempo tunes. Finally, we have More to Tat, which is better known as Mac the Knife. For those of you who aren't familiar with that song, it was originally a medieval piece, a medieval murder ballad made famous by Kurt Weill and Bertolt Brecht that wrote the Threepenny Opera, and the More to Tat was a street singer that sung in this. Here we have a mid-tempo version running about 10 minutes, and it's the second longest song on the album. We have some playful exchanges between Sonny and Flanagan. Towards the middle of the tune, Sonny and Max trade fours, and it's a lot of fun to listen to. Watkins joins in with a solo on the bass, and then Flanagan also puts his contribution in on piano behind Watkins playing. Sonny closes out the tune with a playful improvisation, eventually coming back to the core melody. So it's a lot of fun to listen to. So the 5 tracks are wonderful. All in all, it's really an iconic album that is essential listening for jazz lovers. The flow of the tunes fit well. They offer a wealth of enjoyment and education. And someone who listens to the album attentively, I think repeatedly, is going to get a lot out of it. Sonny's phrasing on the record, I think, is something to be studied. Flanagan's role on the record is something for pianists to keep in mind when playing with a more improvisational group, because you can't put a group in a straitjacket when you're playing chordal instruments, whether it be guitar or piano, if you're really letting people go off and explore more of an improvisational, adding more of that into the song than maybe some other bands would do. Roach, of course, as usual, offers a clinic for jazz drummers to listen to. His ability to swing, add in fills, trade solos, and play that intense, dynamic style is really, I think, a pleasure to listen to. And there's much to be enjoyed with this album. So I would go out and pick it up. I've got it on CD and on this OJC release. I would like to find maybe a little bit more of an audiophile pressing, but for those on a budget, again, trying to get all these different records, it's expensive, and the OJC certainly is worth picking up when it comes to that. So that's all I got today. Stay tuned for more videos, and happy listening. Talk to you later.